Un, deux. Alors, bonjour à toutes et à tous, et bonjour aussi à nos collègues qui sont en ligne. L'événement sera à la fois en français et en anglais. So the event will be both in French and in English, because in this pavilion we speak two languages. This is the area we are concerned. So by the way, we are going to speak about arts, culture, heritage, and especially the very importance of indigenous people in the process, and how we can transform the patterns thanks to these topics. So I am with some colleagues from Philippines, from Colombia, from States, from America, and I am from France. And normally we were supposed also to have some colleagues from DRC, but he is abroad, so we have a small video from him. And we were supposed also to have our colleagues from Africa Environnement Plus, but he will arrive just tomorrow. So this is the point. So thank you to be there. And so first, we want to explain that focusing on art, culture, heritage is not only about an associated event. For us, it is a core topic, because we need also to bridge with people which not really feel concerned about the climate change science and also the climate change political frameworks, but they feel concerned about their daily life and also about their neighbors and everything. So since some long times, we have developed initiatives like Ars Planet and the new one, SDG Global Panorama project. And we want here to bridge emotion and also to support, by the way, creative industry to protect directly lands, indigenous people, heritage, because we really think we need to push them in the upfront of the agenda, because they are most, let's say, suffering about climate change concern, but also about the policy design in many, many countries. So indigenous people, I will say, are the barometers or the real involvement in the process of transition. And if we don't succeed to protect and to make emotion and to reconnect people around these topics, it will be something very difficult. So this is why we host this event here. And by the way, this event is also labeled by the so-called Justice and Human Rights Days. There are 2 days like that, today and tomorrow, from the Secretariat. So they have selected some events. This one is among this one. And tomorrow, end of the day, we will have a plenary discussion with the Commissioner on Human Rights, and we will present some outcomes, not only about this side event, but some others. So this is why it's an interesting topic, by the way. So I will first give a small introduction from a colleague from DRC, which is from Adelipo Networks, and after I will circulate the voice. I hope you will listen to the video. I hope the voice will work. So, okay.
La protection de l'environnement, la protection de l'enfance. Nous sommes actuellement, c'est un site, c'est l'ancien site qu'on appelait Lac Vert, et aujourd'hui on l'a baptisé Boulengo. C'est un site des peuples autochtones, Vous savez que le patrimoine traditionnel des peuples autochtones, c'était les forêts. Les peuples autochtones sont les anciennes communautés qui ont été retrouvées dans les bassins du Congo et au centre de l'Afrique. Les peuples autochtones ont été expulsés dans les forêts quand les gouvernements ont décidé de transformer des forêts qui étaient pour les peuples autochtones un lien d'habitation, un lien de vie. Alors, on les a transformés en patrimoine mondial, en aire protégée. Bon, les peuples autochtones, tels que vous voyez vous-même, ici, vous voyez l'habitat des peuples autochtones, et aussi les problèmes aussi des soins de santé. Donc, ils ont perdu tout ici. Dans la forêt, ils trouvaient les soins. Ils essayaient de recourir à la médecine traditionnelle. Mais ici, quand ils sont malades, ils n'ont pas, même la médecine moderne n'ont pas l'accès. Et la médecine traditionnelle n'ont pas accès aux produits de la pharmacopée qui peuvent les aider à traiter les maladies. Il y a aussi le problème de l'éducation des enfants. Les lieux d'application de la culture des peuples autochtones, c'est la forêt. C'est lié à la forêt. Et quand les pygmées ne sont plus, quand ils ne sont plus dans la forêt, directement, il y a une rupture entre la protection de la forêt et l'art des peuples autochtones. Bon, je pense que la culture, c'est tout ce qu'on a perdu. Nous sollicitons cette justice climatique qui puisse aider les peuples autochtones de les remettre dans leurs droits sur le plan art et sur le plan direct. Nous demandons à ce que la jeunesse africaine, la jeunesse mondiale soit en solidarité avec les peuples autochtones qui ont été victimes de cette spoliation pour qu'ils se rangent derrière la cause des peuples autochtones pour que les peuples autochtones soient réunis dans les deux. Mon énergie 2050 à la planète, le message de remerciement pour tout ce qu'ils sont en train de faire pour la communauté autochtone et pour la délai pour particulier, parce que le partenariat à planète à Delipo et énergie 2050 nous permet à ce que la voix des peuples autochtones soit entendue au niveau international, au niveau mondial et au niveau africain.
So just before opening the floor to my colleague, I just want to explain why we put Adelipo here, because he is from your country. And so you know the topic. And what is really interesting is that they tried to survive because they have been displaced people. And in that case, it is really crazy at the end because you have a regulation in DRC, but it has been really crazy because they have been displaced because to protect the forest, which is even crazy at the end, because as they call themselves, they were protector of forest. They were producing, but not hurting the forest. And now they have been displaced with no resource, no land, and they are really poor. They are struggling, and they are just like a slavery state. So, and now these guys jump into Arts Planet, which is an artistic initiative we will discuss after. And now we sell their products abroad. And we make also some visibilities to the gentlemen and the communities to make them connected to the great world, to be more well-known, and also to sell arts, and to, for that, be in position to pay education to students. So this is this kind of initiative we want to push, but also the topic itself is very crucial, because here there are internal displaced people living like refugees with no revenue, and no compensation, and even with a law to say they have some rights. So it just to keep in mind that in fact we speak about the real world, and these guys, the only way now they find to survive is trying to sell pottery, which are, by the way, really nice. but complex. And I will be also very provocative because we have some colleagues from Latin America and also Philippines. In that case, we call them voiceless people. Why? Because nobody really feels concerned about them because their heart is not so well designed. So it means people don't like it. If you know the Pygmy music, it's special. I'm not saying it's good or not, it's special. And if you look to the costume and to the dance, it is not like in Latin America, where people have a lot of plumes and everything, which is a folklore. People love it. In that case, people is not so nice. I'm not saying that to be impolite. I love them, they are friends. But just to say, we need also to explain that at the end, the emotion we have with these guys is the same we need to have with everyone to feel concerned about the change. So this is why we want to push that message in the upfront as a good and bad example. The good is that they struggle. They want to do this process to revitalize. They want to go back to forest, not to destroy, but to protect. But by the way, they are also suffering because nobody cares since decades. And this is why they call themselves pygmy, which is an insult, by the way, because normally if you call someone pygmy, it's an insult. But they want to call themselves pygmy, and they have worked with the governments to make a pygmy legislation to protect indigenous people. So I think it's very interesting as a narrative, and we need to have this kind of narrative to go beyond and to think about how we can change and influence the process to make these people be owner of their own right on land. That's the story. So I will circulate the speech now. So first I will go to, maybe I will go to first to Michel, because I think it's good you will present the SDG Panorama project, which makes sense. Arts Planet is inside the SDG Global Panorama project, which is very important. It is not our new baby, but it's a large initiative. And I really think for the Blue Bassin Congo, you should be somewhere here to be part also of the narrative, because you are country-based. It is a powerful institution. And by the way, we really think it has to be part of the policy design in your area. So Michel, if you want to take the Victor.
So before you play the video, Stefan, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Michelle Fetting, and I'm with the Climate Institute. We're based in Washington, D.C. And 2026 will mark our 40th year. And we've been working, we were one of the first NGOs on the ground fighting climate change globally. And I'm just very honored to be on this panel with this amazing group of people. Stefan, Cecile, Victor, thank you so much for having me. You know, John Topping, who was the founder of the Climate Institute, met Cecile Alvarez and her husband, Senator Heherson, many years ago, decades ago, in fact. And, you know, at that time, John was really just trying to get climate change on the map and really just trying to make people understand climate change. And I think with Cecile's vision and Senator Alvarez's vision, he understood the importance of the arts and culture and cultural leadership in moving the needle on climate change. So I'm very happy to be working with all of them today, 40 years later, to continue this work. So our coalition launched the SDG Global Cultural Panorama last year at COP29 in Azerbaijan. We've made a lot of progress since then, and we've set up a website, and here it is, to engage people around the world to share their artistic endeavors, their cultural vision, their cultural leadership. We have events, so any of our partners or friends around the world can share any kind of a cultural event that they are doing in any country, and we will promote it on this website. And there is a declaration, which is here. The declaration, you can read it. You can sign on to a letter supporting it. And you can also read other letters and other support that we have gained from UNESCO, especially with Cecile's leadership. She's been traveling around the world and really promoting this movement. And through this platform, you can submit your work, and we have, so this video is just kind of walking you through the website so you can get a high-level view to see how you can connect your work with the SDGs. So you can go through and see how your artistic project, how your cultural project underscores and advances the UN SDGs. And then we also have, this is all of our partners. We have, we have our core team of partners, which is SSCC, Arts Planet, Energies 2050, Dewey Sakayan, who is here, she's really representing the youth movement. Victor is here from Colombia with SSCC. So we have this incredible team of partners and then a number of other supporting partners that are part of this initiative. And then finally, we will, so this is the events. So this kind of just shows you how your event will be shared with a photo and a description and then a link. So you can connect and see what's going on around the world. You can share your event. And then finally, we have the Techno Arts Showcase. So this is where we are going to display and exhibit all of these works. So you can submit your work, and we have 4 categories. You can submit visual, audio, text, and performance. So your artistic work, your painting, your sculpture, your tapestry, your music, your language. And what we are really hoping to do is weave a tapestry of cultural and artistic representation around the world that advance the SDGs. So you can visit this website at thepanoramaproject.org, and you could talk with any of us, to get any more information on the endeavor. So thank you very much.
So thank you, Michelle. So as you see, there is a long chain of commitment and process behind through the different tools we have developed since decades. And now it's time to act. And the final objective all the time is to push in the agenda indigenous people, heritage, art, culture for change. So it is critical. So I will give the floor now because Cécile will be the last, after Cécile, because I think it's important for the message. So if you allow me, I will give the message to Victor. We represent the South-South Cooperation Council. And among others, they host a very, very large event in Colombia, beginning of July, with a very high-level declaration. We should also go to the same direction because we are all focusing and we just join force to scale up the process. So Victor, if you can introduce the South-South Cooperation Council and also all the process you are involved in.
Thank you, Stefan. I'm very pleased to take part of this panel with all our partners. You are a member of our organization, so is also Climate Institute, and of course Cécile. As we now have the Congo Basin as our host, Colombia, as you all know, is also an Amazon country. So issue of protecting forests and also protecting indigenous people. And one thing I would like to share that I found only yesterday, what we can do thanks to artificial intelligence. If there are only 2 people who speak an indigenous language, through artificial intelligence it can be preserved forever, because we are losing so many languages every day now as the people migrate from the forest to the city. More and more languages are forgotten. So I was really pleased to hear that thanks to artificial intelligence, this process can be stopped as long as there are just 2 people who speak the language. Now, for us, and particularly in South America, we know that before Spanish and Portuguese colonization, there were some very strong pre-Hispanic cultures, particularly Incas, in the from Bolivia onwards to the northern tip of Colombia, and we know that those people always lived in better harmony with nature than contemporary societies. In fact, I will give you one example. In one Indian tribe in Colombia, when the fisherman goes to fish, he says a prayer to the goddess of the river and says, I will only fish as much as I need to feed my family and not anymore. So there, whilst we, the modern society, is destroying the environment and causing all the problems, including, of course, adverse effects of climate change, the indigenous people live in better harmony with people. It was for that reason, at the advice of many tribes in Colombia, particularly in Sierra Nevada, we organized a forum on ancestral knowledge to protect the environment. And we do believe, as is already specified in the Biodiversity Convention, that we can learn a great deal from their approach to protecting the environment and staving the negative effect of the climate change. We had a two-day conference amongst other people, the Secretary for Indigenous Affairs of the state of Pará, Puir Tempe, was present, and we all adopted a Cartagena Declaration. If you go on the website, you will be able to see this, I think, 15-page document, and we are already in the process of implementing it. In fact, I'm sure that Cecile will tell you in a moment that we are already preparing follow-up, because the world is full of conferences and fora which take place for 2 or 3 days. Some interesting things are being said and also written down, and then nothing happens after that. And this is why we want to turn this program into a long-standing project which will continue from year to year. Next year, from South America, we take it to Philippines, to Southeast Asia. And Philippines is also important because they have 110 different tribal groups in the Philippines. And then in 27, we will hold the follow-up in Africa. We still haven't decided in which country. So I think that perhaps Cecile might like to say more of what we want to do and what you have started yourself, as we really owe this whole program to the initiative and energy of Cecile Alvarez as UNESCO Artist for Peace.
Thank you, Victor. So, Cecile?
This is really a wonderful connectivity platform that Arts Planet, Stefan.
No, it's okay. Near your mouse. No, here.
Hello.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was saying this is a wonderful platform that Stefan has really forged, because we have bonded a long time ago in COP, precisely because besides the use of arts and culture to communicate and really let people understand, you know, our youth have grown up with the Madonna and McDonald culture. And they are more or less disinterested or uninformed about the wealth of cultural diversity that really is owned by our indigenous peoples. Perhaps it is for me very important to connect with Africa, because our so-called primary indigenous peoples, we were called also as pygmies or Aitas. In fact, some were referred to as Africanoids. So it's very important that the Congo Basin of 17 countries coming together for this thing parallels our own effort in the Philippines for the ASEAN regional solidarity. And we are bridging this precisely to make sure we stop the violence against mankind and Mother Earth. And we know that the most affected are, of course, our Asia, Africa, Latin America. And because we have a common denominator of colonizational experience, it is important that we are now bannering and highlighting the importance of our indigenous peoples, who, as examples have been said already, they are the ones who know really the traditional way of dealing with health problems, with disease that has been picked up by the pharma companies. They are the ones who know how, as was said, there would be peace on earth if we follow the indigenous seventh generation principle. All the elders, when they decide about an action, will not do any decision that would harm the future, the security of children and the youth up to the seventh generation. And they will not also do any harm that will dishonor the memory of their ancestors, parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, up to the seventh generation. This way, you know that the sustainability principle is ingrained in their way of life. And this is why we are encouraging, as was explained already by Michelle, by Victor, the Climate Institute, as early as COP1 was partnered with the Earth Savers, John and Sunny, with the help of partners, which is an SDG principle, brought to the first Berlin COP the Manila Declaration for the Protection of Small Island Developing States. SIDS in 1995 was already ingrained in COP. And we are the most affected. The Philippines has just been whiplashed again. And almost every week for the past 2 months had a super typhoon. But who are the ones, our indigenous peoples, now we've learned we're Catholics, Muslims, etc. But our indigenous had rituals to pray. If there is no rain, to ask for rain. If there is nothing, if there is a very slow, fertile thing, to ask for what you call good produce. So all of these traditions we can't cast aside for so-called modernity. It must be reconciled, and it is important that education is utilized. Lifelong learning from early childhood to adult education. Intergenerational, we can use culture as the catalyst. If you use music, dance, drama, paintings, as we are encouraging everybody, it's no problem. There are artists in every country. Harness them, profile them into the country and civic or civil society pavilions to conscientize, to inform, to popularize climate science, and to reach all sectors, the lost, the least, the lonely, the last. They must be embraced. Let's stop this talk about no one left alone. I'm sorry, if you're angry, you really curse. But that's bull if we don't really embrace them and communicate to each one, provide cultural caregiving, to empower them creatively, to heal their trauma, to also generate creative industries for their employment and dignity. Everybody has talent. I am legally blind. I am 82 years old. And seniors are part as well of what can contribute besides the care that must be done. We have a parliamentarian with us saying we need to care for the elders, but we must harness the experience and the knowledge of the elders, whether they're IPs, persons with disabilities, those deprived of liberty, the homeless. They can all give something to better the condition of mankind. And we only have 5 years to fulfill the SDGs. And we can't fulfill it unless communications is effective. Right now, it is failing. So please help us. The 17 countries of the Congo can join the ASEAN, the Latin American group, the North European Group, a UNESCO resolution directs stop corruption, use the money as capital investment for developing human resources, and culture is your dynamic tool. So we thank our friends in the Congo through Stefan, who is not only full of sweat, but is sleepless like all of us. Let us make it worthwhile here. Really. Let's get it done. Nothing is impossible. With God's grace, no matter how we call the Almighty, in whatever name, in whatever language, with faith, with trust, with collaboration, we can win the war against poverty and pollution, crime and corruption, disease and despair, ignorance and injustice, terrorism and tyranny. We can all live in dignity with a global citizenship mindset. We are one family. Thank you.
Thank you, Cécile. We already prepare you. She is great. And by the way, so we are so happy she is with us. So, but by the way, we have sometimes now to go for some questions if there are some. But I would say, in fact, we are not only struggle to demonstrate, I would say, evidence. We want, because we are in COP, but we are doing the same job elsewhere in many, many big fora. We do the same advocacy, but we do not want just to put these topics as a showcase, a folklore. For us, it is something concrete. When we discuss, like it is the case for your new NDC, for example, we push this topic inside. We want to put implementation. When we put something on adaptations, we want this. We want this kind of model to be applied. When you design the law, we want them to be applied. At the end, it is not just a new storytelling about the process, but we really want change concretely. And this is exactly what's happened here in Brazil. There are so many contradictory approaches. On one side, we say, okay, we want a big, big, big agreement on forest. On the other side, we just open new dwelling everywhere in the same forest. So something is schizophrenic. So if we decide something, we need to find a new narrative. And this narrative is a way also to embrace new people. Because people are struggling, they are not happy about what's going on. And if we not succeed to put in place a new models, we will fail the topic at the end. So this is not only a folklore, we want to protect indigenous people, but also we want them to be not modern, but at the end to take the same tools we are using to fight against climate change. Because we need them to educate people about the circularity Victor was speaking. It was use, they can consume. It is necessary to fulfill their own, let's say, comfort, but not in addition, not taking the resource from elsewhere. So this is why the topic looks like culture heritage, but for us, it is a new narrative. And the narrative behind is the way we can have a potentiality change of the process. And here in COP, we are also doing negotiations since decades. I think most of you know us because you are working with the DRC, Congo, Brazil, and some other on NDC, on NAPS, and all these kind of things as Energy 2050. But we want to put that in the agenda. And a few days ago, we had a meeting in Kinshasa, making the assessment of the 10 years of the Paris Agreements. And one recommendation was to better take into account indigenous people, because they are struggling, they don't have access to land. So when we say we want to protect them, guys need to be the leader about the management of the land. They have to be the ones to control. And they can make business, because part of the forest will make business. But on the other side, they need to have, they will say, their pharmacopée and everything to be available thanks to the forest. So I will ask again my fellow to put some comments about what could be our key message for negotiators to put in this crazy agenda in COP, because indigenous people is not in the agenda. It is in the perimeter. It is not in the agenda. Why? Because it is a country decision level. So it means at the end, if a country put it on the NAPS, if the country put it on the request to have finance, if the country put some regulation, it is a country decision. we are not going to report on NDC, on indigenous people. But for us, it is a barometer. If we succeed to put, and we're not the only one, for sure, at the end, we will have also good KPIs on the reporting for NDC, NAPS, and others. So this is why we are here in COP. Not as long as Climate Institute and also Earth Savers movements, but I remember 15 years ago, we put also some exhibition in COP. And at that time, people were just saying, wow, why you struggle to put art in COP? No, everybody does that. But most of them are doing business beside. So we want here not to do business. We want to business to benefit for, at the end, local population. So I will give the floor to my three colleagues to have also their pushing message for the COP agenda. And because you are also on, we will be on YouTube, we will have a chance to exchange later. You have the contact also in the video. Don't hesitate to contact us. So, Victor, if you want to jump in the discussion.
Yes, absolutely, because it is very interesting that the Convention on Biological Diversity specifically mentions the role of indigenous people. Our colleagues from UNESCO, who are our partners at the conference in forum in Cartagena, also emphasize that it is absolutely indispensable to do the same in the Convention on Climate Change. So I think that is a big challenge, and this is something that we are all trying to do, including you, Cecile.
I think it's very important because the Congo Basin is 17 countries, just the way the ASEAN moves as 11 countries. If we can get the support of the Congo Basin in order in the negotiation, in the people and human social development section, that you stress that what we are asking for culture communications, heritage-based, in fact, in UNESCO, we put it together. We call it biocultural diversity. We don't say biodiversity, cultural diversity. You can combine the two because the indigenous peoples, that's why you have the Decade for Languages, is as much threatened as the biodiversity, the flora and the fauna. So it's a matter of combining. The 17 SDGs is already an overarching thing to fight poverty, which is the cause of so much conflict. If we can have, there is no such thing as saying, oh, it takes 2 years to have a resolution. That is, again, a wrong fake news. Because I have seen, I was at the UNESCO meeting, the UN meeting. We had a blind girl sing about the child of war, and the UN Deputy Secretary General arranged for the resolution, and it is in the resolution at the UN that was done for indigenous peoples during the year for indigenous peoples. So it's not true. If we move together, can you imagine if the African group, the Latin American, Caribbean, Latin American, the North American, even if it's not under the direction of Trump, as well as all the Europeans, we can get it done in a day here, or even with UNESCO. We have a resolution. Please tell your country heads to affirm the value of culture. You know, sustainable development is retarded or accelerated if there is, it's retarded if culture is absent or marginalized. It is accelerated if culture is dynamically applied. So please, stop using culture or arts for the elite. It must embrace everybody. Cultural caregiving for the vulnerable and marginalized. And you will see the wealth of the nation is not just in natural resources, but in human resources. Nobody deprived of dignity because they can live with a good life, not homeless and not begging They have the right to a good life. So please, let's all act together now for the sake of the children of the world.
Thank you, Cecile. I'll just say one more thing about the SDG Global Cultural Panorama website. This is actually a place where we can preserve the things that Cecile and Victor and Stefan have talked about, the languages that we're losing, the writings that we are losing, the performances, the music that is an expression of these cultures. As we continue to amplify this Panorama website, we can eventually have a place where people can go and explore and find and discover all of these things online. They can learn about a language in Africa or a language in the Amazon basin that is, maybe 2 people only speak that language, but it can be preserved on the Panorama website. And so that's kind of a vision for bringing everybody together. It's something that we see as a uniting force for all of these things. And so I just want to thank my colleagues for this amazing panel today, and thanks for letting me and the Climate Institute be a part of it.
Okay, so thank you so much. I will make a small conclusion, but just to go to the direction, things can just move fast. You remember in April, we were in Brazzaville with the Fomadiché. I'm sure most of you were around. It was the first forum on the communication on environmental issue at the level of the Bassin du Congo, with RECEAC, Africa Environment Plus, and Energy 2050 was co-organizer also of this big hub regional, let's say, platform. And you remember probably at that time, it was a resolution, a UN resolution, on the forest decade, you remember. So in April, it was the declaration for a 10-year forest decade. And in this decade, indigenous people knowledge is part of the story. But now we need to go beyond this kind of global statements to go to the implementation. So, and the implementation here, people need to put that somewhere. And for me, why I'm so sad about the process, because I'm following it and as a doer since decade, is that there are so many crazy opportunities to go there. Because what we explain here is not a dream. It's not only a vision, it's practical. If you put some land permit, land ownership to population, they will take care of it. They will protect it, and they can even be the watchdog to protect the area. If you put that, whatever, on pharmacopoeia, biodiversity, whatever the point is, at the end, you will have co-benefit. You will reduce violence, migration, and security. For example, in RDC, DRC, so far, my colleague from Adelipo, they are displaced people. And in Kinshasa, I will have some speaker in the next panel. He explains that they have 7 million guys displaced because of the insecurity. And most of them are poor people, part of them are indigenous, and part of them will lose everything because they are not displaced, internal displaced people. So just to say, at the end, these people, it's just a small number of people at the end. When we speak about these big communities, they are probably much, let's say, numerous than us in our big cities, by the way. But they look to be fragmented because they are small communities like Adelipo. But at the end, they are very numerous people. They have a lot of children, and they need to develop themselves. So here again, the call for the statements, because we are in the Para region, is that at the end, we put something concretely as a commitment, but not only as a, let's say, wishing list commitment, but also on the implementation side. And I will really dream again, one day, to discover an NDC, putting some emphasis, and putting some projects to be financed. Here we have the BDSE, the bank. I know them, they are working with Comifact, and why not for them to develop a special line to finance under the Congo Basin Commission and Blue Fund to finance some concrete projects for indigenous people in this region. This could be the narrative and the next point. So just as an opportunity. So I think we are almost on time. So we will cut here the session because it's okay for us. We cut or? Okay. I think we need to almost cut. So thank you so much. Everything will be on YouTube. We will have a series of events. And for those who are here in presential tonight, we have a crazy nice event at 6:30. So it's a co-organization. All the partners are there. But not only this one, we have also some partners from Australia, with also Aborigine and indigenous people. We have also partners from Brazil. And so at the end, we will have a crazy nice event. Frankly, go there. It's room 3, 6:30. And why it is so special at the end? Because we will have a ceremonial opening statement between two communities from Australia and Brazil. So my colleague from DRC will not be there, unfortunately, because we are not in position to pay the ticket. But since the last times, we expect he will be there. But at the end, it will be an opening ceremony. It will be really great. And also, we will have a discussion on that. So please join us. And so at least, hopefully, it will be also online because they're supposed to share online. So thank you so much for your attention and see you later. We will have some opportunities there also to go back to this pavilion to speak about communication and culture 2-3 days later. Thank you so much.